In today's video, we're going to take a look at how Pochettino's tactical tweak affected the game against Aston Villa at the weekend, and that included having Marc Cucurella invert into midfield, which is something we saw slightly in pre-season. And today we're going to talk about how this helps the team. So to get an idea for how things changed, we of course have to look at how things started. This is the broad lineup on paper of how Chelsea looked in that first half in a 4-2-3-1, and here is how it looked in possession. Cucurella tended to hold a lot more width. Gallagher would also push on into that half space, which at times left Caicedo on his own, kind of isolated, and especially in transition, which Villa got some joy from. However, in the second half, we saw Cucurella inverting slightly, which can be seen by his player average position. And this is sort of what we saw where he came into that left centre mid position alongside Caicedo. And at times you actually saw it making a midfield three. So it was kind of a 3+2, like +1 build-up. So more of a 3-3. With Gallagher coming in as that right centre mid and Cucurella as that left centre mid, leaving it in like a 3-3-4 formation. Now, the main thing this offered was stability for Chelsea behind the ball. They was able to press and keep possession in the opposition half, pin Aston Villa back, and really sustain attacks in that second half. It was basically one-way traffic for the entire second half, and that was due to the aggressive nature of that Chelsea rest defence. Here is an example of that midfield triangle being formed. Caicedo at the base, Cucurella in sort of that left centre mid position, and then Gallagher roaming from that right centre mid position, forming that triangle behind the front four. In deeper build-up scenarios, you saw this sort of 2-3 formation in the rest defence with Badiashile and Silva. Chalobah sort of pushed up as sort of a hybrid right centre-back, right back midfield option from the inverted position, as you can see from this image here, giving Madueke that isolated area to receive it on the wing. What this allowed is Chelsea to pin Aston Villa back in their own half. Their two strikers were basically sat on the midfield line. The defence had acres and acres of space to bring the ball forward, and they were pinned back with their defence and midfield lines pinned in their own half. Aston Villa playing the way they do step up with their defence. They tend to keep those lines quite close between the midfield and the defence. They don't want you to get in between those lines, but what they do then leave is a little bit of space in behind, even if they are camped in their own half. Those sort of half-space runs in behind can still find the free man if they're timed well. But the main thing about sustaining possessions and sustaining the position in the opposition half that you have is the ability to create attack after attack after attack and wave after wave, and you just create more opportunities for yourself to score. So keeping that Aston Villa defence pinned back in their own half means that every time they try to get out from the back, they've only got two outlets, and that's basically against a rest defence of that 2-3 structure. So if they're aggressive, and the defenders started to be a lot more aggressive in that second half as well, the centre-backs were backing up that three in front of the two rest defence structure of Cucurella, Caicedo and Chalobah. It was just a lot more aggressive. They're able to sustain the attacks, and then wave after wave, you're just going back and forth at them, giving the likes of Madueke, Palmer, Gallagher, Mudryk even at times, and Jackson those chances to continuously attack. And the more chances you give those players, the better chance you have of scoring goals. But of course, what you're also doing by sustaining pressure in the opposition half is you're keeping them away from your goal. So you're taking away their threat on the counter because you're only leaving one or two outlets up there for them, and you've got an outnumber in that area of the pitch because you've got that 2-3 rest defence on there too. You're pinning them back in their own half. You're making them less effective, but you're also giving yourself a better chance to control the game. And that is what we saw, probably one of the most controlled halves of football that we've seen from Chelsea this season, if not the most controlled half of football. And Cucurella was the key to this, bringing him into that midfield. He's aggressive anyway. He's got that tenacity to win the ball back and be key in that area. He won 4 tackles, but he also played 3 key passes. He actually seems to be a lot more comfortable on the ball in the middle of the pitch than he is when he's trapped against the sideline. So giving him that area on the pitch, giving him that license to be aggressive in the rest defence, which I think is one of his best attributes, to just be aggressive, win the ball back and just put pressure on the opposition. Giving him that area and that license to do that in the middle of the pitch gives Caicedo a bit more protection, allows Gallagher to push up into the half space, and it just gives Chelsea a lot more players around the ball in close proximity to counter-press when they do lose the ball. And as I said earlier, it just allows Chelsea to sustain attacks and sustain the pressure on the ball. So what did you make of that Marc Cucurella performance, that little tactical tweak from Pochettino at halftime? Do you want to see it again against Tottenham? And what would you do for the end of the season in terms of, would you revert and try and play this more often? Would you start games how we did, and if things start to go wrong and we need to sustain more pressure and sort of get more of a foothold in the game, would you then switch to this? I personally think this has been something we've needed all season. I've been on and on about the rest defence, and I think inverting one of the fullbacks, if you don't have the aggressive centre-backs like Wesley Fofana available, who can cover more ground than, say, an Axel Disasi or a Badia Shiel, who actually was really good at the weekend against Villa. But if you don't have that personnel, I think the best way to counter it is by inverting one of your fullbacks, especially an aggressive one like Cucurella, to help sustain attacks and just to help with that rest defence in terms of being aggressive and winning the ball back before counter-attacks can really escalate to a dangerous level. So let me know what you thought about that tactical innovation, little tweak from Poch. Not innovation, that's not the right word. But let me know what you thought of it. And I will be back with another video soon on a new manager profile. I think it's either going to be a manager profile or a player profile, but let me know which ones you want to see in the comments down below.